Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So we are in like major save money for a trip we have coming up mode, which we find ourselves in a lot more often than we used to, which is great. We love to travel, but it means that I have to get real serious about how I am working our groceries. I think for most people, their grocery budget is the one budget that there's like the most wiggle room in. And I have found that for us, I save the most money if I stock up on things and make sure that things are just available at my fingertips whenever I need them. So I thought that I would bring you guys along with me and show you like what a restock of our kitchen kind of looks like. I try to do this once a week, just do like a basic restock and a little cleaning along the way. So I thought that I would show you what that looked like. The first thing that I always make sure that I have right on hand is some softened butter. I use softened butter in so many things. If we're gonna make cookies or muffins or bread, I need it for that. So that's always necessary for me to have right at my fingertips. The next thing that I try to do is go into my pantry. In my downstairs pantry, I keep a lot of jars of like dried goods and things, coffee, baking powder, baking soda, salt, that sort of thing. And I pull out anything that is halfway or less than halfway open. And I pull all of that stuff out and send my kids upstairs to grab the big buckets. And then I just refill those. I know I'm supposed to like stir all of it together so that I'm not getting just the new stuff on top. I just didn't have the patience for that this time, so I didn't do it. This is something that my kids are always involved in. I don't ever do this by myself. So that was coffee. Now I'm refilling my gluten. I use that a lot in sourdough making. It just makes it possible to use any kind of bread and get enough protein in the flour to be able to make a really good loaf of sourdough. And then I have all the chocolates. So we go through a lot of chocolate chips, muffins and cookies and all of that sort of thing. So I find that I have to refill these a lot. That one is dark chocolate. This isn't a hard job, but it really does make my life a lot easier to make sure and have just filled jars and containers of all of these things. Popcorn, this is something that we use really frequently. So popcorn is usually one that I have to refill every single week. We have more chocolate chips in the background there. And then these containers, these I pull down every single week. And I will clean the shelf that they're on and work on cleaning the actual containers as well. Because one thing about open shelves is that you can't avoid the dust. So I like to make sure and keep these nice and tidy. You can see just in a week how much dirt and grime gets on them. I really like going through and refilling all of this stuff because it does give me a chance to see what is dirty and what needs to be cleaned. It kind of helps me keep things really tidy just all the time. And then once I get them cleaned, it's time to refill them. So the things that I keep in these containers are, well, the one that is still back there up on the shelf is einkorn. I had just refilled that one, so I didn't need to refill that one again. And this one is cornmeal. we really like cornbread, so I make a lot of that. Especially my older girls and I are big fans. So a lot of times I'll make that for lunch, like with other stuff, but cornbread. So I have to keep cornmeal handy. And then this one is quick cook oats. I do also have a container that I just keep upstairs, a 5-gallon bucket of rolled oats. But when I'm making oatmeal for breakfast, which we do about once a week, we prefer the quick cook oats because they just are faster to cook. These mini chocolate chips are by far the most used of the chocolates in our home. I make chocolate chip brioche every week for breakfast, sometimes multiple times a week, and so we go through a lot of mini chocolate chips doing that. We keep these buckets in an upstairs storage room. I know I could probably just keep everything up there and not worry about having filled containers downstairs, but I have just found that if I have these things all just readily available to me, I am much more likely to actually make stuff. So I like to make sure and have everything as full as I can get it. I do have a couple of 5-gallon buckets of one of brown sugar and one of powdered sugar, but we had purchased way too much brown sugar and powdered sugar to actually fill those buckets. So I went to use what is in the packages first. So I did not pull down my big buckets of those. We're just going to kind of get through the bags first and leave the buckets up there because those will store longer and better than just the packages. This container is masa, so I use that anytime that I'm making corn tortillas, or mostly I use it for tamales, which we're getting into tamale season, so I definitely need to make sure and refill that. You can see I used a different brand. I'm actually not sure. I think this one was from Aldi. I'm not really sure how this one's going to turn out. It's a different color than the older one was, so I'm probably going to go back in and mix that together really well. And then powdered sugar. I actually don't use powdered sugar a lot, but my girls make a lot of icings and frostings and that sort of thing when they are baking, and so they use it quite a bit. So this one is really more just for them. I use it sometimes when I'm making whipped cream. Once I have all of those containers filled up and cleaned up and put back away, I like to tackle our produce cart. I got this cart from the Container Store a million years ago. I kind of can't believe that is still holding up because this thing was super cheap. But the first thing that I do is pull out anything that is not great anymore. Like a lot of these oranges were like really, really soft and yucky feeling, so I didn't want to put those back on there because they're not going to get eaten. And there were a couple of apples that had some yucky brown spots. So any of that kind of stuff that we can take and toss to the chickens, that's exactly what we're going to do with it. Unfortunately, the citrus you can't take to the chickens, but the apples we will. So most of that stuff is not going to go to waste. And then I make sure and put anything new for the week that I purchased right in there along with it. Right now we have been going through a lot of apples My toddler is super into them right now, and my older 2 girls as well. And then I have been really, really loving apples and peanut butter in this pregnancy, so tons and tons of apples. I did pull out some bananas that were kind of brown. Anything like that, I like to take and sit on the countertop, and anything that I can't take to the chickens, and throw it on the countertop and see if it's possible to either go ahead and freeze it and use it for like smoothies or something, or make like banana bread or something with it. And then on the bottom, my son is just very gently tossing in the potatoes for us. Another thing that I love to have stocked in my kitchen is some shredded chicken. So this night in particular, I was making some soup with chicken in it, and so that was really handy for that. But I just like to roast up some chicken with some olive oil and salt and pepper in the oven, and then I'll stick it in my stand mixer and shred it up just like that. It's super quick, but it's one of those things that if I have it in my refrigerator, it is definitely going to get used. So you can use this in salads or to make chicken salad. I did go ahead and separate out enough for us to put in our soup for dinner that night, and then the rest I just put in a Ziploc bag. And this will stay good for a few days in the refrigerator, so it will definitely get used up. I can also stick it in my freezer if I don't think that we will use it quickly enough from the fridge, and that's really handy. It's really handy to have. I like to have that. I can make chicken salad sandwiches, and we can have that for lunch, or I can send that with my husband. There's so many things that you can do with shredded chicken. So this is one of those things, if I can have it in my arsenal, then I like to have it already pre-made. Plus it's super easy. I just had the chicken going while I was doing everything else, and then whenever I finished all of the other containers, it was ready to go. And the last thing that I like to make sure and have all the time are chopped onions, and I just ran out, so I needed to completely restock in that. So I like to just get a couple of bags, 1 or 2 bags, sometimes more than that, especially right now. We're using a lot of like sauteed onions and garlic in like recipes. That's a start of a lot of recipes. And I will go ahead and chop up and freeze all of the onions that I have. It keeps the onions from going bad, so I definitely know I'm going to be able to use them. But also it just makes it so easy whenever I am doing a recipe and I don't have to stop to chop onions. These onions always, always, always make my eyes burn and tear up. And so if I can avoid that, then I'm going to avoid that. I'll do it once and get all the tears out, and then be able to use the onions for a long time. So having my kitchen fully stocked is just mandatory for me. It definitely saves me time and money.